Hi there. You know what I really like? Gambling. I like spending an exorbitant amount of money on digital cosmetics in a game that I will very rarely actually play. You know, like Star Rail. I will just let the game play itself for me. And for that reason, I have a lot of characters that I ended up pulling on a whim and just ended up regretting it later on. You know, I could just eat that loss and not do anything about it, but I think I might make a video about characters I regret pulling because I have almost every character in Genshin, so, you know, why not? Somebody might be interested. I guess I should set up a few ground rules. Obviously, my reasons are completely my own. They can revolve around the character not being meta, not performing well on my account, I don't enjoy their playstyle, I don't like their design, maybe I pulled them for completion's sake and now I don't care about completion, stuff like that. There are even a couple examples of characters who I pulled who I really thought I was going to like and then never ended up playing because their playstyle was boring. So if I say something bad about a character you like, just remember that I am always right, and yeah, that's about it. Let's just go ahead and rip the band-aid off. Raiden Shogun. This character is actually currently running on Banner, so I know a lot of people are getting her for the first time, using her for the first time, so some of you might not like this opinion, but Raiden Shogun is probably one of my least favorite characters in Genshin. When released, the reason why I pulled her was pretty simple. Raiden Shogun was the first Archon that released after the major reveal of Inazuma. It was the first region that extended Genshin Impact as a game. For that reason, she was the first character that was really hyped up over the course of a year. We heard that she was some kind of powerful tyrant that had the ability to kill most men with a single slash. And I had played Honkai Impact 3rd, so I was expecting something along the lines of Raiden Mai. But instead, we got some purple hair girl in her pajamas. I was expecting some badass in armor, not this. So design-wise, I was already a little disappointed. And then her gameplay came out. I had pulled the Mistsplitter Reforged specifically for Raiden Shogun, expecting her to use a broad blade, and that did not end up being the case. She was a polearm user, which at the time, we had gotten a ton of them. It felt like every character had to be a polearm user, so a lot of people were disappointed by that, myself included, considering I pulled a fucking 5-star weapon for her that she ended up using in her ultimate attack anyway. Raiden Shogun then had one of the shortest bursts in the game. I think to this day it is still the shortest, for a total of 6 seconds where you can actually use her as a DPS, which once again was really disappointing for me because I wanted to be able to use Raiden Shogun as a on-field character. A lot of you may not know this, but at the time of release, there was a lot of drama around Raiden Shogun because people thought she was not a good character, and I will give Raiden Shogun credit. At the time of release, she was a very powerful meta character because she was the best driver for National Team until Nahida came out, so she was good for something. But the biggest reason why Raiden Shogun is one of my greatest regret pulls is simply because I despise her character in the story. I'm not going to go into too many details on this because there are a few reasons why, but it's just a really long story of there was so much potential, you had a very good antagonist built up, and you completely ruined her role as an antagonist to redeem her so that she would sell well, because unfortunately, in China and Japan especially, characters who are considered evil don't tend to sell well on banners, and they knew that, and they wanted to give her some sort of redemption arc, which sucks, because in my opinion, that ruined her character. I don't think I've had a bigger fall off on my opinion of a character ever since the Shogun came out. I pulled her on release, used her quite a bit even though I didn't like her, and as of now, I cannot remember the last time I've used Raiden Shogun in modern content. I feel like the Shogun as a character is a victim of power creep from the Inazuma era. A lot of Inazuma characters nowadays are not that good. So as it currently stands, the Shogun is just a brick on my account. But you know what? At least I can say that I used her once upon a time. You know who I can't say the same thing for? Yae Miko. Might as well talk about her immediately after the Shogun. I am a day one Yae Miko hater. I am fairly certain she was the first character who I pulled in Genshin where I used them in combat and was baffled by how bad she was. Now she has since gotten better with the release of Dendro, but Yae Miko in general is a very clunky, not very fun to play character that doesn't really do enough damage to validate her screen time. Rotation of skill, 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 burst, skill, skill, skill takes up such an extreme amount of time on the field that DPS teams end up losing their numbers by using it. It is recommended that you just don't use her burst in order to get a full rotation off more efficient. And on top of that, Yae Miko kind of has a problem in the sense that there's another character that just does her job better, that character being Fischl. Fischl, a lot like Yae Miko, is an electro off-field applicator that can do reaction-based teams very well. Unfortunately for Yae Miko, Fischl doesn't have any ICDs on her attacks. She generates particles much more efficiently by being a battery for the team, and with her A2 passive, she gets infinite uptime on her Electro applications. While on the inverse side of the field, Yae Miko can only apply one tick of Electro every so many seconds, while also being a sponge for energy. And then there's the fact that Fischl snapshots and Yae Miko doesn't, which further degrades Yae Miko's total damage in a long-term battle. Match that with the fact that Fischl's been out since release, so anybody that wanted that job has more than had enough time to get Fischl, especially because she's been given away for free already. It kind of just defeats the whole purpose of Yae Miko. And that's not to say that if you have a 4-star that does your job is automatically something that makes you invalid, because Yelan is considered one of the best 5-stars in Genshin, and Jingshou exists. So it's just a matter of Yae Miko just not meeting the bar. She's not even a character that's as valuable as Fischl, because you always want a second Jingshou, but there are very few instances where you are going to want 2 Fischls. Of course, meta isn't the only reason why I don't like Yae Miko. She also has a personality that I am not really a fan of. Characters whose whole personality is literally just, hi, I like sex, is not really something I vibe with. It's the same reason why I don't really like Lisa that much. And on top of all of that, again, this is the same thing I said for Raiden, I played Honkai Impact 3rd. Yae Sakura in Honkai Impact 3rd was a much more compelling, interesting character, and then they made Yae Miko, who was specifically stated to have some sort of relationship with these characters, and she is the way she is. It was just a very, very disappointing outcome for me. But you know what? You could be top of the class in terms of meta, and I could still not like you. Look no further than Ganyu, who is a character that I wanted since the game's release, and by the time I finally got her, I never used her. Ganyu was one of the highest damaging characters on Genshin's release. She is still considered more than powerful enough to clear all the in-game content, and when I got her, she was top of the top. But I still don't like her. Personality-wise, I could literally go one way or another. I don't hate Ganyu, I don't like Ganyu, she's just kind of milquetoast to me. Very bland, whatever. Meta-wise, she's really good. So in theory, I would like her since I'm a real big meta whore, but no, she is so boring to play. And you know what? I'm gonna pin Lenny up here at the same time. Lenny and Ganyu are both characters who I pulled who I know are strong. However, I don't like them for the same reason, and that is that bow and arrow charge shot gameplay is some of the most painful content in Genshin in my opinion. I play on mouse and keyboard, so I have it better than most people, but I still cannot stand this gameplay. If it wasn't obvious by my love for Kanich, I am a very heavy advocate on fast pace, speed over damage gameplay. Having to stop and stand dead still for a prolonged period of time in order to charge up a single shot that does do respectable damage is just not fun. And God forbid I have to go out of town for more than a couple of days, I will be playing that shit on mobile, and that is just not something I want to do. I feel like this isn't a very hot take. I feel like a lot of people also agree that bow and arrow content is some of the most boring content in Genshin just because of the playstyle it has. Now that's not to say it's not a valid playstyle, because I have seen some major Call of Duty 360 no-scope one-shot gamers who never miss a single bullet, but I'm not one of those. I am bad at this. Therefore, I'm not going to do it, because I will not let my fragile ego be shattered when I miss a hilly troll at point-blank range 5 times in a row. And I guess while we're talking about gameplay I don't like, I'll remember Eula? Yeah, well Mihoyo doesn't. You know, I'm gonna give Eula credit, because she is single-handedly the best physical damage dealing cryo carry in Genshin Impact, alright? She might be the only one, but by God, is she still the best one. Going back to what I said about Lenny, he shares a similar trait to why I regret pulling Eula. That being, I pulled Eula and Lenny both for completion's sake. When I pulled Lenny and when I pulled Eula, they were the last limited time 5-star characters in Genshin that I did not have at the time. The only reason why I pulled these characters was because I knew I had to in order to keep the collection going. Now, I have since stopped doing that. I have since only pulled characters that I like, and now that I have extra characters and an excess of resources, I started pulling on the weapon banner, and I started pulling on constellations. That's why my Farina is C6. But unfortunately now, with this new mindset, I look back on characters that I pulled way back when, and I regret pulling them. I wish I would have done something different with those summons. For example, my Kanich could be C3 right now if I would have just not pulled Lenny and Eula. I could have Zillinen guaranteed next patch if I wouldn't have pulled those characters, but I still did. So take my advice. If you are like me and you are getting to the point where you are about to complete your dex or your compendium or whatever you want to call it of Genshin characters, just remember, if you do not like the character character, if you do not like their playstyle, if there's something about them that you do not like, even if they're a meta character, don't pull them. Save your summons and pull a character you actually like, alright? Don't be like me. Don't be a fucking fool, alright? But I'm sure some of you regret pulling a character, so let me know about it in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe. See ya.